Hello, it's me, Aaron, and today I wanted to talk about another feature pretty much common to all the Soulscapes, and it's the runbacks, baby. What an exciting experience. I mean, just look at all the fun I'm having. No, but seriously, this feature is one of the most controversial, and honestly, whether you love or hate the Souls games, a good majority of people seem to hate it, and today I'll prove to you that the runback thing is actually a good idea. Anyways, let's just begin. So, why do I think runbacks are a good idea? I mean, they make you lose time, they're tedious, and just an artificial way of making me lose my time and increase difficulty, right? Well, no, you're wrong, and I'm going to ask you a question to prove it. So, what do you do when you die against the boss? You come back and fight it again. Right. And the more you fight him, the more you'll get used to his attacks until you kill it. Right. But something that pretty much all players have experienced at least once or twice is the cycle where basically, after a while of trying, you get worse, then you become good again, then you cry in the bathroom, and the cycle repeats itself. The eternal cycle of coming back to the boss over and over again, doing the same run and not getting better. I call it the brick boss loop. Or the brick wall loop? I don't know, I'm bad at naming things. And another thing that happens is, after a while of fighting a boss, you stop and come back a few hours or a day later, and then when you come back, you beat the boss you've been struggling against in one or two try. So, what does this mean exactly, and why do I bring it up? Well, it means that bumping your head against the wall over and over again can eventually make you win, but it can also trap you in a loop. And to counter that, you need to take breaks, release all this pressure, and come back later. This will have the effect of making you be in the same state that you were when first fighting the boss, but this time with the knowledge bonus. And this often leads to much better tries than when you were in the brick boss loop. Now, Miyazaki probably knows this, right? And so, if you're a game dev, what would you do to help players not to get stuck in the brick boss loop? Because not a lot of players are going to willingly sit down for 10 minutes and think about the boss. So maybe say to them to take a break every now and then. Well, no, this isn't Wii Sport. Maybe you could prevent them from retrying a boss for 10 minutes every time they lost to it too many times. I don't think punishing the players for fighting a boss by time outing them is a good idea. So it seems pretty hard to figure out. But Miyazaki found it. Boss runbacks. Why not just force them to take the time to think about the boss and rest by making them spawn far away from the boss every time they die? But this system isn't perfect and can be badly made, so much so that sometimes it can even be counterproductive. So, maybe it gives you time to think about the boss, but you can't really control people's thoughts. And even if you invite them to, they might think of something else, like how much they hate this fucking game, or the Desert Parliament says. So, while it will work on some people, others might still get stuck in the brick boss loop, and in that case, the boss runbacks will just waste your time. And what about a break? Does it succeed at that? Well, it depends on the environment, the enemies on the path, and again, the player. So, for the environment, well, as you might have guessed, it's harder to rest and think about the boss in fucking hell. So on the enemy spot, it kind of depends. If it's just random enemies that you can easily run past, it's fine, you know. After a while, you're just gonna instinctively run past them and be able to think about the boss. Keyword being after a while. So this brings the problem of not being able to rest and think about the boss because of the enemies taking your whole attention. And now I'll just give you two examples of a good runback and a bad runback. In Dark Souls 1, oftentimes runbacks are just the area where you were, so you already know it, and the enemies can stop you, but it's not really their purpose, and so they're easy to run past and go back to the boss. But the problem is that then, oftentimes runbacks run hard, but a little too long, and so this allowed the players to rest, but they were at times kind of boring. And thinking about the boss, you have the time to, but it really depended on the player, and so I think the runback from Dark Souls 1 would have been perfect if they were just a little shorter. And now for the bad example. Dark Souls 2's DLC. So, disclaimer, you might get PTSD for this one. So, Frigid outskirts. Too fucking big and super hard to navigate. So you get lost easily, and so you waste even more time. It's just running in an empty fucking snowstorm, and then a Kirin from Monster Hunter will randomly appear and kick your ass. So they're pretty hard to deal with. Fly around and so waste even more time. And if you try to run, they'll run faster. So yeah, fuck this. Too long, but doesn't allow the players to rest or think about the boss, with how you always have to be on guard for electric ponies. So yeah, just boring, tedious, and just puts more pressure on you while you fight the boss. Just thinking of having to do all this again will make you perform worse, and therefore force you to do this run back again. And so, the Frigid outskirts just does the exact opposite of what a boss run back is supposed to do. And at the end of it, you fight an asset flip twice, and your reward for all this are 2 weapons so good I've never heard of them before. Thank you, Dark Souls 2. So yeah, at this point Dark Souls 2 has its whole fucking arm inside your ass. But that's not it, because there's more CBT in Dark Souls 2's DLCs. Like the Iron Passage. So it's just a few rooms with a lot of enemies that probably have the highest pose I've ever seen. And yeah, they also do a fuck ton of damage. I'll just run from them. Well no, because astrologists, they'll use the Promised Walk of Peace spell to make you 5 million times slower. Because that's how it felt. So can't run, but it's just a few enemies, right? You can just take them. Well no, they are not slowed down. And there's also archers to make this an even more fun experience. And now after this very pleasant 40 minutes, guess what you find at the end? No, just guess. An acid flip, and it's not even a DLC boss, it's just a boss from the main game, but blue and buffed. Why? And just guess what you get when you beat it. The same weapon from the main game, but blue! And the only thing that I guess works in those runbacks is if the runback is too annoying, people are more likely to say, okay, fuck that, and come back later, and so freeing themselves from the brick boss loop. But at the same time, they're also more likely to say, okay, fuck that, and uninstall the game. So a double-edged sword there, B-team. So now I need to talk about Elden Ring for a bit. So a new feature that appeared are Stakes of America. So now if you die near one of them, you have the option to respawn at them. And they're now often near a boss gate. So I think that it takes away the time to think and rest, and so it contributed to, for example, the ridiculous amount of tries it took for some people to beat Melania. She's already hard, so putting her right in front of you every time you die pretty much only gives you time to make a Reddit post about her. But it also gets rid of the frustration that could have came out of a bad run back. But I guess you don't waste your time anymore. Or do you? Because maybe, if you had time to think and rest, you could have performed better and beaten her less tries, and so, less time. So really, it depends on the run back. But to do a good run back, you need to make it not too hard to allow the player to rest and focus on the boss instead of the run back. Bonus points for shortcuts like elevators that make you go to the boss while also giving you time to more effectively rest instead of running past enemies, which isn't the best way to rest. Also, make it short enough that it doesn't waste my time, or in the worst case, make me forget what boss I was fighting. Wink wink, Frigid outskirts. So yeah, I think that runbacks, if they're just like I described, are a good addition that will either help or waste a tiny bit of time in the worst case. But if they're like the Dark Souls 2 runbacks I talked about, they will do the opposite of helping you, and just be an annoying and tedious way of making the game harder, and also punishes you way too hard for dying once. Like, death in the Souls games is supposed to be normal, and the only bad thing that happens when you die is losing your souls at the place you died. But then you only lose them when you die again before getting your souls back, and so it punishes you, but only for not improving, and that's good, that's awesome. But Dark Souls 2 makes you travel the whole fucking country for dying once, as well as getting your health down every time you die. Like, why you're so mean, Dark Souls? Like, what the hell? But anyways, in the end, the Souls games have most of the time failed at making good runbacks, most of the time being mid, bad, or really terrible. Proof being the majority of players hate them. But I mean, they sure have mastered how to make them inflict as much suffering as possible, I guess. And one last thing, are runbacks going to stay? because the last Souls game from From Software kind of tried to remove them, and honestly, I have mixed feelings. Sure, it's better than bad road banks, but I just wish they tried to perfect it, to make it consistently good, instead of saying, fuck it, let's just get rid of it. So yeah, thank you for watching. Your presence until the end is appreciated. And there's probably a reason you watched it till the end, so I would recommend subscribing and liking and watching my other videos. You fell asleep, didn't you?